Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with the story of my life. Chapter 9, Traveling to Boston. The journey to Boston in May 1888 was the next most important event in my life. How different this trip was from the one I embarked on to Baltimore 2 years ago. I had transformed from being that relentless, attention-seeking creature on train. Sitting quietly by the car window now, I absorbed everything Miss Sullivan told me she saw outside. She described the lovely Tennessee River, the great cotton fields, the woods and the hills, and the throng of laughing people at the stations, waving to the passengers and selling mouth-watering candy and popcorn balls. Nancy, my big rag doll, sat opposite me in a new dress and sunbonnet, staring at me with her beady eyes. As I was absorbing my teacher's narrative, I ignored Nancy totally. I hit my gulp by pretending that he was asleep. Soon after we arrived in Boston, Nancy was covered in dirt thanks to the mud pies I had forced down her throat, despite her not displaying any liking for them. The laundress at the Perkins Institute carried off Nancy for a bath. Poor Nancy could not take off all this pressure and was reduced to a formless pile of cotton when I saw her next. As soon as we reached the Perkins Institute for the Blind, I started making friends with the blind children there. I was thrilled to discover that they knew the manual alphabet. It was sheer joy to interact with my own kind, children who knew my language. Till now, I had felt like a foreigner conversing with the aid of an interpreter. Here, I was in my own country, and it took me some time to appreciate the fact that all my friends here were blind. I recall that the surprise and sadness when they placed their hands lovingly over mine when I spoke to them, and they told me they had read books with their fingers. They did come as a surprise, as I expected that they would soon be blessed with a sort of second sight just because they could hear, although they were blind. But all of them were happy and content that I lost all my sadness and pleasure in their company. Just a day in the company of my new blind friends made me totally at home in a new environment. I anticipated pleasant experiences one after the other as the days flew by. I could not bring myself to believe that the world was a huge one for me. It was Boston, the beginning and the end of creation. We visited Bunker Hill during our Boston trip and received my first lesson in history there. I was very excited as I was told the tale of the brave soldiers who had fought on the same ground where we stood. We traveled to Plymouth by water the next day. My first trip on the ocean involved my first voyage on the steamboat as well. But I began crying as I mistook the rumbling of the steamboat machine to be thunder. I feared that it would start raining and spoil our outdoor picnic. What interested me most about Plymouth was the great rock on which the pilgrims landed. I could touch the rock, and that would make the arrival of the pilgrims and their great deeds even more real in my mind. A kind gentleman had given me a miniature model of the Plymouth Rock at Pilgrim Hall. I often held it against my hand. I felt its curves split the center and the embossed 1620 on it. I knew the wonderful story of the great pilgrims and marveled at their bravery and generosity despite seeking a new home in a new land. I was under the impression that they desired freedom of their fellow man as well as their own. Imagine my disappointment and surprise when I was aware there were acts of persecution later that made this recoil and shame. Isn't it ironic we revel in the bravery and energy that gifted us our country beautiful? Mr. Endicott and his daughter were among the friends I made in Boston. Their kindness gave birth to several fond memories. We visited their lovely home in Beverly Farms one day. I was so happy exploring their rose garden and displaying with their dogs, little curly-haired Frizz with long ears, and Big Leo, who made friends with me. I recall how Nimrod, the speediest of all horses, nestled his nose into my hands to be petted, and for a lump of sugar I also recalled the beach, where I played in the sand for the first time in my life. Mr. Endicott told me about those massive ships that sailed from Boston and traveled to Europe. I met the man many times after that, and he was always kind to me and a good friend. I think it was because of him I renamed this city of Boston as the City of Kind Hearts. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.